Right, so once again, thank you everybody for joining. I think people will join as we go. If I just do a quick kickoff, thanks very much for joining us on this blustery morning. My name is Michael Hutchinson. I'm the Software Director for First Technology in the Western Cape. Yeah, this morning's web demo, web presentation is Maximizing Productivity with Adobe and Microsoft. Carla Ralph, who we've done a number of projects with, is online. Carla, I'm gonna let you do an introduction on yourself. If you want to jump straight in and yeah, let's maybe share your screen and let's get going.
Sure, no problem. Thank you, Michael. So let me just quickly share my screen here with everybody. Right, so my name is Carla Ralph, as Michael said, and up until a couple of months ago, I worked for Adobe for the last 10 years. And subsequently, I have gone on my own. So I've done, as Michael said, a couple of projects with First Technologies in the Cape regarding some of the Adobe software. So today's session, we are going to be looking at the collaboration or the way that Microsoft and Adobe work together. And the agenda, we'll start off with creating the creative apps like Word, PowerPoint, and Outlook, and how Adobe Acrobat and Adobe Sign integrate with those and make your life a lot easier to be able to work directly from those applications. Then we're going to look on the collaborative side, and we're going to look at Microsoft Teams and Adobe Sign. So how being on Teams, if you need to get a document approved or signed, you can do it directly from within Teams. We'll most probably have a quick little bio break over there, and then we're going to come back and we're going to look at a SharePoint and OneDrive together with Acrobat and Adobe Sign. So if we carry on, if we look at most organizations today, their process, whether it's a signing process or whether it's just a normal business process, is usually print the document, whether it needs to be signed or not, scan it, fax it, copy it back, and sometimes it can even look a little bit of a mess, where documents are not always discoverable where they are in the process. So we'll start off just to show you the different Microsoft applications and which Adobe applications can actually integrate and work together with those. So you can see OneDrive, SharePoint, Microsoft Dynamics, Flow, Teams, all have Adobe Sign that can integrate with them. It does run on Azure for Adobe Sign, and today we're only going to be looking at these three different applications in some detail. Right, so let's jump over to the Office or now Microsoft 365 applications. And there are, if you have Acrobat installed in your environment, you will notice that there are new Adobe Acrobat ribbons within the various applications. So the blue one would be Microsoft Word, and you can see there's quite a number of items that you can do there. Of course, this is going to vary depending on whether you're on an Apple platform or whether you're on a Windows platform. Then you've got Outlook, and you've got Excel being the green one, and the one right at the bottom is even Outlook. So it even integrates with that. And each of them would have an option to have some preferences. And so you can set up right from the go, okay, we're sending this Word document out. If I go into the preferences, you can see you can set it to be the smallest file size. You can set up security for that PDF document that it's going to generate directly from within the applications. So the preference settings, of course, will vary depending on the application. But and this has been around for quite some time. So as long as you have either Acrobat Professional or Acrobat Standard, you will have this new ribbon within the application. Right. Then there are some add-ons, and I'll actually show you this in the applications themselves, that if you go into to the add-ins menu, insert menu, and you search for Adobe, you'll see that there are a couple of applications that are available. There's integration for Word and PowerPoint directly with Sign. There's Document Cloud, and there's even Creative Cloud. So again, depending which applications you'll see, they will give you new little icons in the ribbon that you are working with. So again, not needing to go out of the application you're in to generate the PDF or whatever it is you're doing. All right, so let's demonstrate this to you. I'm going to jump to my Windows environment. So here you can see the Acrobat ribbon that I was talking about. Again, you've got all these different options. So on the Windows platform, you can do a mail merge. We're actually going to show you how to send documents out for comment and review. And instead of uploading them into the document cloud, I'm going to show you how you can actually send them directly to OneDrive and then be able to make a comment and then import them directly inside of here. So if we jump to Acrobat, in the Acrobat window, under the home menu, you can see there is a whole lot of options here, and one of them is to add an account. So you can either connect Box, Dropbox. If you use Google, you can use Google Drive, but these two are the ones that we're going to be focusing on today. So you can add a OneDrive account, and you can also add a Sharepoint account. So all you would do is click on add. You would put in the relative email address that you are wanting to do. So this is going to be, let's do this one. Oh, sorry, I need a OneDrive account. Sorry, my bad. And you're going to say continue. You will get to tell you that you want to please sign in. So you can go and put in there whatever your password is. And you can then go and say yes. And you can now see that I have my OneDrive connected into Acrobat, and all the documents that are available there, I would be able to either save directly to here or be able to open up directly from here. All right, so let's go to Microsoft Word. And while I'm in Word here, you can see on the home ribbon, here are my add-ins. So the add-ins were inserted from the Get Add-in store. Of course, admin IT can manage these to say whether people have access to them or not. And if I go into my home menu, you can see here are my Acrobat add-ins, and here are my Adobe Sign add-ins and my access to Document Cloud. I need to be able to get to collaborate with people, either internally within my organization or externally, and there are a number of options that I could use. So I could go in here and say create and send for review. So the PDF Maker is just the PDF plugin, and I can choose where it is I wish to be able to save this particular agreement, and if I need to, I can actually save it on my OneDrive. And let's go and call this one agreement and save it. So it is now converting it directly to PDF, depending on the settings that I had set up. If I want to share it out, so if I do not want to keep it on my OneDrive, but I want to share it with somebody outside of my organization, and I don't want to use OneDrive to be able to share it with them, I have these options at the top here where I can either share a document with them via email or put it onto the Adobe Document Cloud and share it with them. If that is done, you'd put in your email address, you can say whether they can comment. If there's a deadline, they will then receive an email stating that they have access to that, and then they can open it directly. But not all organizations want to have something out of their own environment. Right, so now we're in, I had saved this particular one on the OneDrive where I'd saved it, and I need to be able to go and put some comments on this. So if we click on comment, and by the way, the comments can be done in either Acrobat Professional as I have here, or even with the free reader. So depending on what the option is, they can use either or one to be able to do that. It will automatically give you the commenting options within the free reader. So we can go and put some comments in here. Maybe we need to delete something here. Maybe we need to insert some text here. You can even use an @mention for somebody within your organization. So we could go and say here, @Michael, if he was within my organization, and he would be notified about whatever is being done here. I could go and do, so we got insert, you've got delete, you can replace some text with whatever it is that you need to be able to do, and these people will then be able to save this particular document, because that's the one that would be on OneDrive, and all that commenting and reviewing would take place. If I have multiple documents that have been sent out to various people, I could either choose to import all the comments within the PDF, or I could jump back to Microsoft Word. So here we are in Word. If I go back to the ribbon, I can then come in here and say, I want to import all the comments that were made on the various PDF documents that people have sent back to me. Or they could have just had it in one location. So for example, if you're doing it on SharePoint, it could all be done in one location and then imported afterwards. So I'm going to say OK here. It's going to ask me for the document. So I'm now going to browse to the OneDrive. And I'm going to find that agreement that we did. Let me just save it on this side. Okay, I'll get back to this example in a moment. And then I can choose here whether I want to import all the comments or only the textual comments. And I can choose whether I want to turn on the track changes within Microsoft Word if I need to be able to do that. So we're going to import these, and they can see here that I have 3 comments that were made. I can choose now to integrate them, and it will go and say, okay, third was going to be deleted. I can go and apply those comments or those changes within the document. So you can then go and do these, and you can see it's doing it for me. Right, so that is one way of being able to do all the changes within Microsoft Word and Acrobat, and this, as I mentioned, has been able to be done over many versions, so it's not a new feature, but it is something that has been around for quite some time. Right. The other thing I wanted to show you while I'm here before I carry on is within Outlook. Now, often within Outlook, we have these emails that we tend to keep for such a long time because we're scared to get rid of them in case we need to refer back to them, even though it's like 5 years down the line. So with the full version of Acrobat installed, you can set up an archive. And it's like blood flow. Anything within Outlook will become a PDF at the end. So you can do a file, you can do a folder, it doesn't matter what it is. And you can then refer to the elements within that document as a PDF at a later stage. So you can enable this maybe every Monday morning you have a meeting, you could set it up for that time. You could set up security if it's a confidential file, and you can go into your various settings. So you can say, okay, this needs to be an A4 document. What is the compatibility? Do I want to include attachments? Yes or no, depending on what it is. You can then go and say, oh, I just need to choose an archive box. So you need to add whichever folders within your Outlook you would like to be able to do. So if it's my inbox or whatever it is, I can go and select that, and then it will go and choose where I want to save it to. So I'm just going to put this on the desktop. Let's call it inbox 2. And I can then go and say, okay, so whether it's a file or a folder, it's now going to archive it for me. Then if we go and have a look at what this is going to look like, so I've already opened one up here. So as you would search in Microsoft Word Outlook for a particular email, you would be able to do exactly the same. In here, you can go and search. You can see here that it's showing attachments in this particular document. You can see if I clicked on an email, I can actually open the email client and it will email it off to me. And if I've got any attachments, I can actually go and open those attachments directly in here. Open file, and you can see it will actually open it in Excel for me. And I now have access to whatever those content or attachments were. So that's a nice way, especially if you're finding that your email is getting full, that you can then clear it out depending on what it is you want to do. Right, so if we go back, the next portion that we're going to have a look at is the integration with Teams. So this we're going to look at with Adobe Sign. And this is the possible way that your workflow could change. So for those that were on the call from the beginning, you saw the first one that I showed you that was like a big mishmash. We didn't know where anything was. Whereas now you can go and see that somebody can retrieve a document from within Teams. They can deliver it not necessarily to a customer, but to somebody within their Teams that can then sign it, and it can then be returned directly into the Teams environment, so that at any time you know where that document is, how far along it is in the signing or approval process, and of course people will have access to it mobile, and it is secureable. So how is this going to work? Now there are 3 different options that you can integrate Adobe Sign within Teams. The first one is that you could go to the Microsoft App Store and you could look for Adobe Sign and you could get it now and you could add it. The second way is within your Teams environment, you can click on the Teams icon. You can go to the little plus and add it as a tab. So you can go and search for Adobe Sign and add it to your environment. And then what's going to happen is you're going to then have a signature or Adobe Sign where you can send agreements and you can manage your agreements by seeing exactly where they are. And the third option is the option that I've got in my Teams environment, which is to actually add it on the left-hand side as an option there. So I would click on the 3 little ellipses. I would search for Adobe Sign. I would add it to my environment. Of course, here you would have an option for a tab or a bot, and you'd need to authorize with your Adobe Sign account. So you would log in, you put in your Microsoft password, you would give permissions, and then you would sign in with your Adobe Sign account. So this would work whether you have a user or whether you have a transaction Adobe Sign license. Either one would work. Right, you put your allowances in. Now this experience that I'm going to show you now, I'm going to show you from the sender's point of view, and then I'm going to show you from the signer's point of view. And what I'm going to be showing you here is going to be the basic interaction or look and feel that you're going to get whether you're in SharePoint, when you send a document, whether you're in Microsoft Dynamics. It all depends on the system that you're working in. Right, so I'm in Teams now. I've got my little tab on the side. I've clicked on Adobe Sign. I've made sure that I'm using my send for signature. Now, Adobe Sign allows you to either send it in any order, so that means there's no hierarchy within the organization, or it allows you to do, as I've got it here, set for a particular order. And you can, it supports a hybrid model as well, where you can say, okay, first let's send it out to person X, and then it's got to come in, and then either person A or B can sign in any order. So it supports that as well. So you can go and put in the email address. So it's always best to know what the workflow is and where this document needs to travel. Think about it almost like a courier service. Let's use a FedEx or DHL or Burco as an example. When you're sending a document somewhere, you need to have the address of where it needs to go to, and think of Adobe Sign as that courier packet or courier box that they give you. And you can add either one document or multiple documents to that courier box when it goes. And then Adobe Sign is like a courier service going out to each and every single person in that workflow and getting either the approval or the signature, and then delivering the finished agreement to you. Right, so we've put in the first email address that is available. We've got, when you set up your account, there are a couple of different options. So you can say whether you want signing or approving, or just somebody that accepts documents, or whether they're a certified recipient. You might have people that just need to fill in the particular form. So maybe in Teams, you're going to send it to your colleague because they need to fill in the details for that agreement or whatever it is, and then from there it's going to go off to the next person. We also support delegation. If something needs to go to a secretary first, and then the secretary will delegate it to whichever senior executive needs to be able to sign with that document. And then there are different authentication methods. The first authentication method would be their email address. You could use password, and phone at the bottom there is for one-time PIN authentication. That means that they need to receive that before they can even look at the document and sign it. Just above that, you will see, sorry, let's just go back a step, that we support recipient groups. So that is if you have to send it to a department, and any one person in that particular department, whether it be procurement or HR or sales or whatever, needs to sign off that particular document. Right, then you can write a private message that would only be for that particular person. So if it's internal, you might have a reference number, you might have something in there that you need to bring to their attention. So you can have these private messages for each particular person. You can have somebody on CC if that is required, and then you can actually put password protection on the actual document or documents that are going to be signed. You can set a deadline to say, okay, this is to be done by this particular time, and you can also set reminders, whether they're every day, whether they're a weekday, makes no difference. And then again, depending on your account and how you set it up yourself, you can either have a purely electronic workflow, or in some cases you might want to have a written workflow as well, where they might need to download, sign it in wet signature, and then scan it back, especially if it's a sale of fixed property or a will. It doesn't support full electronic signatures. Right, then handing the bag to the courier company, it goes in the van, and before it does that, you can go and put on these signature fields. To just show you in my Microsoft Word document that I had, at the bottom, it supports what we call tagging of a particular document. Sorry, let's just get this to go to the next page. I seem to be having an issue here. Come on. Oh, come on. All right, so there we go. So you can tag a particular document, and so on templates, Word templates, or whatever it is, and then these electronic form fields will already be available for you. Now they are all color coded in the corners. This means that somebody cannot accidentally sign in the wrong place. So you can see the blue indicates that any person in the workflow can fill in or sign that particular document, and it's just a matter of clicking on that particular field and then changing it to the relevant one that they want. So here you can see the gray ones would be just for a particular person, and in the pink one, it's for pre-filling. So nobody signs where they're not allowed to sign. Adobe Sign also doesn't permit that if you sign it in one place, all signature fields are automatically populated. You have to interact with that field to be able to do that. Support lots of different fields, so if they need to upload an image or supporting documentation, so we have input fields, we support both digital and electronic signatures, check boxes, radio buttons, all sorts of things there are, and this is all standard. Then when you go into the Manage tab here at the top, you can see which documents are in process, which are waiting for you to sign, which need to be completed, and you can see I'm here in Teams at the moment. You can see cancelled agreements. I don't have any in here. Those that have expired, if you gave them a deadline, those that are in draft, templates that you might have. We even support web forms, whether it's on an intranet or an extra internet, and then MegaSign allows you to send one document out to up to 500 people at a time for them to sign individually. So straight away, you could see I could send a document for signature, and I can check where that document is at any particular point in time, right? If I click, so if I go into any of those and I just click on the one that I'm looking for, you can see on the side here that it's either on a pre-filled status or signed status or out for signature status. It would give you whatever the view is here, and you can see that this is the person that needs to sign. At any time, you can, if there's more than one person, you can replace the signer at any time. So let's say, for example, I need to send it to Bob, but Bob is not available, he's off sick, but Jack or Tabo needs to sign in his place, then I can switch out that signator. If nobody has signed the document, I can always replace the version of the document. So let's say, for example, I was supposed to attach version 2.2, but I only attached version 2. As long as nobody signed, I can modify that agreement and send the new version. And then under activity, I can go and see where that document is at any particular point in time. Why is it taking so long to sign? Oh, I can see here. Oh, you know what? It's Jack. It's sitting with him. He hasn't actually done anything then or there. All right. So then we can go and have a look at the signer's experience. What are they going to experience? So they will receive an email, or in Teams they will be notified. They will then go into the document and it will tell them to start. So when they start, they can go and fill in their name and their suburb or whatever they need to be able to fill in. So that was the pre-filling in. Send the document off, and here you can see I can be alerted. Nobody's looked at this document by a particular date or time, and these can all be set up in your account. All right, you can change the settings if you need to. So the signer's experience. Right, so they will receive an email, and it can all be branded, again, according to your organization. If there are multiple people that need to sign, they will be notified of who the other people are if you wish to set it up. If they need to attach any documentation, they will be notified within this email, right? They, again, depending on how you set it up, I've chosen that they need to agree to sign electronically before they view the document. You can also set it up that they do it just before they sign, right? If they don't want to sign electronically, they would need to give a reason. right? So we're accepting, there's their little private message that they've received, and now you can see where the information was pre-filled on their behalf, and they can click to sign, and now there are different signing options that are available. So the first one could be that they could type in their name. The second option would be that they can actually draw their name either with their mouse or their stylus, depending on what they have. The third one be to upload a particular image, so maybe they've got a signature that they have already. And the last option is they could put in their mobile number. They will receive an SMS, and as soon as they click on the SMS, it will go back into the signing where they could sign. So if I just go back, it would go back to this view, and they can actually use their touch screen of their phone to be able to sign their document. Right. Then they can put in their name. You can see that they can only interact with the form fields that they have, the date, the time, and the document will then be sent off again. It could go on to the next person depending on what it is, and that person will, again, if you've set it up that way, be notified that they can choose to download a copy of that document if they want. Right. So now let's see what the sender is seeing while the signer's signing it out. So if the document has been completely, it's gone through everybody that needs to sign it, they will receive back the signed copy of the document, and if there were any form fields that needed to be filled in besides the signature field, they will get that as a CSV file in case they need to integrate that back into their system. If you're using SharePoint, not SharePoint, if you're using Microsoft Dynamics, you can, and some other integrations that support REST, you can actually map back-end system fields to form fields, and then it's a push-pull. So you can pull information into the document that you want, like PO numbers, customers, details, and all of that, so you don't have to do that manually. And then when the information comes back, let's say, for example, they give you a purchase order number or a reference number or those attached documents, they can then be pulled back into the back-end system and saved within the repository. So different options are supported. Right, so here I am within Teams again. So you can see directly within Teams, I have this option now that document has been completely signed, and I can then choose to download it directly within Microsoft Teams. I can also see it in the chat, so it was under the chat option, and if I choose to download it, you can see that under the managed agreements, I can now see that it would be sitting under the completed section. You can see in the top right-hand corner, it is now stating to me that that document has actually been signed, and now I have all these options that are available to me. So I can go and download an audit report to the exact steps that were taking place at that particular time. I can click on the signer and see who they were that were signed. You can see I've got the little tick mark there. Under the activity report, I can see that the whole process that document went through, and I can actually open that agreement. And the audit report that I downloaded is that activity, but in a secured format. So all documents that are signed will have this certified blue ribbon at the top to state that the document has not been tampered with in any way, shape, or form. And I can actually go and see what the status of was with that particular document. Now, this document will then is sitting within your Teams environment and get asked, does the document stay within the Adobe Sign environment? You can set up a retention policy when you get an account or your organization get the licenses, and you can state in there what is the time period that document must temporarily stay on the Adobe server before after it's been delivered to you. Some people say, okay, directly as soon as it's delivered into our system, delete it off there. Others will say, okay, maybe a week or maybe 2 weeks, depending on what the users, if you don't have a direct integration for the users to take it off. But that can all be set up within your account. Right, and then if you click on the signature field, you can see there that it will say, oh, sorry, let's just go back a step, that no signatures were allowed, you know, that the signer's identity was valid, and all of that. So you can actually see that within Acrobat. Right, so I'm not too sure if anybody wants to have a quick 2-minute break, or whether you're happy with me to continue. Perhaps Jolene or Michael will be able to tell me.
Carla, I see there's a question that Darren Hammond has posted in the meeting chat questions. I don't know if you want to maybe answer that for him.
Okay, let me have a look quickly. Sorry, I just need to open Teams again. Sorry, I'm just trying to find where I can find that question.
So I can read it to you.
I can find it here. Let's just see. Okay, question. Let's move this out the way. Does my current Adobe Acrobat version include? Can't see the bottom there. Include this. So something to take note of is that there is a simple version, let's call it that, of Adobe Sign within Acrobat. Let me just quit this a moment. Within Acrobat itself. So under Tools, you will see that there are a couple of options, but please note that the Adobe Sign that is in there is not based on the organization. It does not support integration, and that you are limited to 150 documents per annum. That's it. You cannot increase anymore after you've reached that particular quota, let's call it that, and all of and it's integrating with your Adobe Acrobat online services. So if you want to have your documents pulled together, so that you can either top them up at a later stage, again, depending on transactions, so you get 2 licensing models. One is transactional and the other one is user-based. So user-based, there is a certain number of documents per user, but they are pooled together. So if you have 10 signers, and the other thing too that is very clear is that only an initiator of a signing process needs a license. So if I am sending a document to everybody that's on a call, because again, depending on the license type that you have, for business and enterprise, you can have up to 25 people signing on a document. In the Acrobat version, it's limited to only 10. The number of pages can vary. So enterprise, you can have up to 500, business less, about 100, and the others are also limited. So as I was saying, is if you only have 10 initiators of a signing process, and all of their agreements will be pooled together. So that means that you have, let's say, hypothetically 1,500 courier bags that can be sent out, whether it be one document or multiple documents inside of that. Did somebody have a question there? So with this being pooled, if Bob only uses, let's say, 250 and Tabo uses, let's say, 300 and Jack uses only 50, you're still within your quota. You're not limited to a fixed amount per person. When it comes to transactional, it's slightly different, because you can say, you know what, we need so many transactions per annum, and you can start at a lower amount, and as soon as you start to reach your quota, you can top it up with different bundles of transactions, and then you can have everybody in your organization using from those transactions if they need to initiate documents. So there are different options for different things. Okay, any other questions? Let me check for that.
So yes, Carla, there is another question from Alexis. If you could maybe answer
Yes.
that one for us.
I'm busy reading that now, so let's just see. Okay, so with Acrobat 9, 10, or 11, they will not integrate with the Adobe Sign options, but they will have the ribbons within the Microsoft environment. But please note that those versions 9, 10, and 11 are no longer supported by Adobe. It's the same as having an old version of, let's say, Windows XP. You know, Microsoft is not going to support that because it's old technology, and the same thing would happen with those older versions, and there won't be updates to security and those kind of things. So just be aware of that. So Alexis, also for you with the Acrobat 9, 10, and 11, when you apply signatures within the Acrobat environment, so I'm just going to jump here again, you'll see that there is a certificate and there is the fill in, you won't have fill and sign, but signatures within those versions are what we call digital certificates. And basically what happens is, if you try and sign, let's say I've got 3 people that need to sign, and they need to sign all 10 pages. All right, that was not how the digital signatures were originally created. Usually a digital signature is you apply one signature for the entire document. So let's say person A signs first, whether it be all 10 times or whether it be only once on the document. Then person B comes along and they sign on that particular document. Then usually what you will notice is in that signature panel, let me just see if I can find a particular document that has got a signature on. I don't think I've got one. But when you put that signature field on, then usually the first person that signed will get a little exclamation mark next to their name. So that means that the document has been changed since the first person has signed the document, which is valid, because after they signed it, somebody else put their next signature on, and then the third person. And the other thing with digital signatures is you need to validate the signature for each person and each time that they get signed. So it's a little bit more of a clunky, let's call it, workflow as before. So I hope that was able to answer your question. I'm not sure if there are any other questions here.
Great, thanks, Carla.
No problem. Guys, if you've got any other questions and you don't feel like posting them here, you're more than welcome to send them out to your First Technology representative. And if they can't answer it, then they can always forward it on to me, and I can try and respond for them. Okay. All right.
Fantastic.
So let's have a look at. No problem. Carry on.
Fantastic. No, go ahead. Thank you, Carla.
Okay. All right, no problem. All right. So as you can see, the integration with the Teams environment was a lot easier. And then just Alexis, also that there might not be the integration with SharePoint and all of that, depending on the version. I think, if I remember correctly, Acrobat 11 did have some kind of SharePoint integration, but not all the versions. Okay, so let's go back, move this slightly out of the way. I'll try and keep that open so that I can see if there are any further questions. Okay. Also, if anybody is interested in Adobe Sign and the workflow that I'm demonstrating today does not quite gel with your environment, please just contact your First Technologies representative, and they can always set up a demonstration specifically around the working and the processes that you have. I do quite a lot of those, so you're more than welcome to do that if you do have a little bit of more interest. Right, the next thing that we're going to have a look at is, yes.
Carla, Before you move on, how do we, like in my case now, I am the one joined now this presentation.
Yes.
And I am end user computing manager of the university. Is it possible that you can arrange this for my technical team, since this speaks to us directly?
Sure, no problem.
So that we can
Just reach out to
everything.
whoever sent you the invite. Yeah, no problem. Just reach out to First Technology, and they will set up a demo session or whatever it is with me. So you can just reach out to them, because they're the ones that have set up this this meeting. So no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, that's a pleasure. No problem. Okay. Anybody else, or can I carry on? Okay. Then let's have a look at the next portion. Right. So the next portion is the execution of the side of things. Right. So I'm going to look at this from two aspects. So the first one is going to be from within Acrobat connecting to SharePoint. And then the next portion is going to be SharePoint. If I'm in a SharePoint environment, what options do I have that are available to me? Right, I did kind of go through this a little bit with the OneDrive section, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to add an account, right? So you will literally click on add the SharePoint site. You will go and put in whatever your SharePoint URL is that is available to you, and then it will try and connect to your SharePoint. So you're going to see on the left-hand side here that you actually have your SharePoint drive and whatever documents that you have in SharePoint, and you're also going to be able to go to the SharePoint website directly from within Acrobat if that is a requirement for you. Right, then with SharePoint, there's going to be a check-in and edit the document environment. So you're going to select whatever the document is, you're going to check it out, and it's going to then open it up within the Acrobat environment. Right, then you're going to make whatever edits you need to that particular document, and then what you're going to be able to do is then from within Acrobat, you're going to have the SharePoint server, so you can check it back in again. And then you can also select the version type. Yours might change because there might be newer versions than what I have in the screenshot that I have available. Right, and you can also add whatever comments need to be done. Right. And then to access the documents in SharePoint, you can go to the SharePoint website, and then within SharePoint, okay, this is OneDrive, but within that environment, you'd be able to actually have access to the documents that you need. You can open them and share them depending on what you require. Right, if you go under more actions, you can actually see within that particular document as well. Right, let's have a look at it from a SharePoint environment, okay? So when you go into SharePoint, you have a couple of options that are available. So when Microsoft and Adobe did their partnership I think it's about 18 months ago now, or maybe just a little bit longer, they started building connectors into SharePoint directly so that you didn't have to go into Acrobat to be able to do the elements that you needed to do. So now, again, depending on the solution that you have, if you've got Adobe Sign, you'll see that you have Sign available directly within your SharePoint environment. But you also have the ability that if you select multiple Microsoft documents, you can then combine them to make a PDF within SharePoint. So you don't have to do that limitation within Acrobat anymore. You do, however, need to have an Acrobat license. Then you can rearrange the documents in any order that you need to be able to, and then be able to combine the actual document and save it as the PDF that you require. Okay, so once we've done that, you can save it, and you will be able to see that within the environment. Now you can see that I'm not in Acrobat per se. I'm actually in a browser-based version. Right, so now once you're in the particular document, you can see that the new PDF of those documents have been added to SharePoint itself. Right. So you could also, in your signing process, you can integrate Adobe Sign, and this would basically be retrieving the document from your SharePoint server, either doing it internally or externally to the customer. So you can see it's very similar to the Teams environment that I showed you, and that everything can be archived within the SharePoint environment. Right. Again, different ways that you can integrate Adobe Sign. Either go to the App Store, all right, or you can have it, the integration with the online or the desktop version. And then here is just a hyperlink at the bottom for people that want some more information about it. Maybe Jolene and Michael, I can send this link out to you, and you can just share it with everybody that might want to have a look at it. Right, so what is the sender's experience? So I'm using a procurement manager's as an example in this particular demonstration. Right, so they're in SharePoint right now. They choose the particular Word document that they are looking for. All right, they're going to go to the more options, and there is going to be the Adobe Sign tab if it's not visible at the top. And directly from within here, you can send for signature. One of the other things that you're going to notice here is that you can have a template library. This means that if there are documents that you're using all the time, it could be an agreement, it could be a pre-filled form for procurement, and then they just need to attach the invoices. It depends on the document that you can choose. All right, and then you can manage your agreements and check your agreement status at the same time. All right, so can you see the interface is very similar to what I showed you in Teams, right? Again, you're going to be able to put in the email addresses that you need. You're going to then password or whatever it is that you need to be able to do. And then again, in the files section here, it's automatically imported the document that you had selected within the SharePoint environment. Of course, you could go and add a couple of additional ones if you needed to, okay? Again, you're going to be able to go and add the signature fields that you need to for this particular document. Sorry. And then it's going to submit that document again. All right. In the Adobe Sign tab within SharePoint, under the agreement status, you're going to be able to click on that Word document. So you can see it's not showing you a PDF just yet, but you can click on the Word document, and you can see here that it's stating for you that that particular document is out for signature right now. What is the signer's experience? All right, it's going to be exactly the same as I showed you within the Teams environment. Okay, they receive the email, right? He reads the document, clicks on the start button, whatever he needs to sign, clicks in there, chooses the type of signature that he wants. I've gone through all of this already, and then signs the document. In this instance, you can see that I agree to sign. The terms of the document is done at signature. You can get them to tick it as the other example was done beforehand. If there's anybody in the pharmaceutical industry or anybody that needs to give a reason why they are signing a particular document, this can be set up in the settings on the back end of Adobe Sign, where it's under biopharma, but you don't have to necessarily use it for pharmaceutical. And then they can give a reason. I'm signing this because of approval or whatever it is that it needs to say. Right, they've also got an option to download a copy if they need to. And then going back to the person within Sharepoint. So they can now click on the agreement status of the particular documents. You'll see that it is still a Microsoft Word document now, and you can see now that it is stating there that the document has been signed. So this is live. At any particular point in time, they can view this, right? Then in the SharePoint environment, you can set up a particular folder where all the signed agreements need to go to. And in that particular folder, they will receive the original PDF document that was signed together with the audit trail. So that means both will be in the SharePoint environment. And then again, I said, if you have a retention policy in place, you could say, all right, that as soon as it's been delivered here, delete it directly. Don't archive it at all in the Adobe Sign environment. Just another thing, Adobe Sign for South Africa will be the server or the courier company, let's call it, that actually passes this document just during the signing process is based in either Dublin or Frankfurt and not in the US. Right, and it doesn't replicate over to the US. Right, then if you click audit point right now, I can go and see this particular audit trail. I can open it if I need to be able to see it and check on it. I can check on the document, and then within the document, I can either open, share, or follow that particular document. And here you can see there's blue ribbon again showing that the integrity of the document has not been altered. So just remember, if any document goes for signing within the signing environment, they cannot go and change the actual Word document and change the contract from 100 to, let's say, 1,000. They can only interact with the form fields that have been allocated for them. And one other thing, Adobe Sign supports these electronic signatures, but they also support digital signatures. So if you do need to use either an advanced digital signature or a self-signed digital signature, or one that's been provided by a third-party authority like the Law Trust or Trust Centre or Trust Factory, which are the 3 approved ones in South Africa, it can be done directly. There would just be an additional step for them to open it up in the reader to be able to do that. Right, so that is all from my side. I just wanted to see if there are any other questions that anybody has here that needs anything. Okay, if you're more than welcome to unmute and ask your question about anything particular.
Hi, Carla. I see that there's a question from Philip Collins.
Let's see. Okay, so an interactive form PDF. Okay, so Philip, I need to know, does this PDF need to go externally outside of your organization or internally? Okay, internally. All right. So usually when you have an interactive form field, and on SharePoint it means that more than one person is going to be able to sign it with any one particular environment, then when they save it back to SharePoint, they would need to be able to change the name of the document. So what you could possibly do in your environment, and it's not necessarily SharePoint related, but if I open up a browser window here, let me just quickly open one. Okay, because just remember the PDF is the one that's sitting in SharePoint, and even though people are accessing it via the browser, if they are filling in that particular form, when the next person comes to fill it in, it might have the previous person's information in there that they had it. So you'd need to be able to save a different version of it. So what you could also do is in the Adobe Sign environment, you can set up what we call a web form. So this means that, and again, you can authenticate for internal reasons. You wouldn't need to authenticate an email address, even though mine is set up to do that. For external reasons, you could have your form either on your intranet or wherever it is. I just need to check and see whether you could share this to your SharePoint site as well via code. I'll just double check in a moment. Sorry, this is taking a minute to upload all of a sudden. Let's just see, come. And basically what would happen is the person would be able to interact with this form information, and then the information from this, the PDFs that are filled out from here, should be able to go back into SharePoint. So I just need to follow up on that. If you can just get the person you deal with at First Tech just to email me so that I know who it is, so that I can get the information, because I can still find out from Adobe directly if that kind of integration would work using this. No problem. Okay, sorry. Oh, this is not. Let me just see if I put it on Wi-Fi. Maybe it will help. I just don't want to miss my connection. Let's try it in the browser rather. Sorry, I'm using two different interfaces, Windows and Mac, so I might not have got it to be there. Let's do this. Some unknown reason my form is not working now, but that is a different way to be able to do it. Right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Carla. Are there any more questions before we close off for the day?
So from my side, thank you everybody for sitting through the very long presentation. It is greatly appreciated from my side.
Thank you everyone for joining. I've just popped up a screen for everyone to see. If you do want to get in touch with us and that you haven't done business with First Tech before, you can contact us on customer software at firsttechnology.co.za. If you do business with us currently, then please contact your account managers directly. And thank you very much for your time. And we look forward to seeing you on future webinars. And thank you, Carla, for your time today.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.